Good morning, good evening, whatever time this live is coming to you. Thank you for catching the replay. And I am going to continue with this series of steps. We're on step 4 today, guys. Step 4 is moral and a fearless moral inventory. And there's many ways to do these inventories. You can do an inventory before you go to bed. You can, mainly, but the inventory that we're going to talk about here is the one from AA. But like I said, there's another inventory that I'm going to share with you guys that I picked up from this meeting that I went to last night. And I'm also going to read a couple of characteristics of someone struggling with chemical dependency. And there's about 7 or 8 of these traits. So I'm going to start off with some of these traits, and some people might identify with them or relate to them, or it reads such as follows. Characteristics of someone struggling with chemical dependency may include, but are not limited to, my addiction isolates me from people except when I am getting, using, and finding ways and means to get more. I have an inability to deal with life on life's terms. I've tried drugs or alcohol or combinations of both to find contentment in a seemingly hostile world. I've dreamed of that magic formula that would solve my ultimate problem myself. At times, I have been defensive. This is one that a lot of people can relate to. At times, I have been defensive about my addiction and justified my right to use, especially when and if I used legal prescriptions. That could be anything. Some people don't think that they think just because it's legal that you don't have a problem. So I'm going to read that again. At times, I've been defensive about my addiction and justified my right to use, especially when and if I used legal prescriptions. I am trapped in the illusion if just one more time or this time will be different. When I seek help, I was only looking for the pain to go away. This is the last one, and then I'm going to move on to step 4. My track record shows that it is impossible for me to use successfully. So I'm going to play step 4 discussion with Father Martin. This one is step 4 and 5. I'm not going to move on to 5 because I think that step 4 could be a couple of videos. A lot of people break down step 4, not just fearless and moral inventory of like their behaviors, relationships, their assets and resentments and all that. They don't just do it with that. You can do a searching and fearless moral inventory of relationships, sexual inventory. You can even your work history. you can do many of those. But I will, before the end of this video, break down a very simple, I think it's about 5 or 6 questions you could ask yourself daily to do a daily inventory. And it really does help. I did this daily inventory for a couple of years, and I remembered it when I went to this meeting last night. They were handing out these daily inventories. So we're going to go over what step 4 is with Father Martin. It shows that this is a 29-minute video, but we are not going to watch the whole video because he goes into step 5, and I don't think that it's good to rush the steps at all. I'm stuck on step 4, even though I'm 5.5 years sober. I need to complete a step 4. So let's get into what step 4 is, how to do it, and then we're going to listen to an AA speaker, Scott L., and he is going to talk about how to forgive others. And that's also a part of step 4. So you don't have to hold on to everything. And, you could forgive others. You can do a living amends and forgive others, even if you don't directly talk to them ever again. You can pray and make a living amends with that person that you don't think it's a good idea to communicate with. And that way you're free, they're free, because sometimes you can't always make an amends directly to individuals. So here we go.
Good evening. This is the 4th in our series, and it's on the 4th step of Alcoholics Anonymous. It kind of gets really serious now because the looks and the thoughts turn inward. In the first 3, we were we did look inward, obviously, but we were focusing on this God out there. Now the addict looks at self.
Okay, so if you're just now joining me or if you're catching on the replay, my service to you is to go over these steps. We've gone over step 1, step 2, 3, and now this is step 4. I'll be interacting with this video, so please leave a comment or suggestion in the description or in the comments below, or if you're catching the replay.
A, in its 12 principles, lays down a perfect pattern of how to live. Prepare before you execute. For example, admit you're sick, take on the rules to get well. Come into a room and look, come to believe you can get that way. Make a decision to turn your life over to God, spend the rest of your life doing it. Now the alcoholic, the drug addict, is asked to take an inventory of self. In the 5th step, make it known. Become willing to have defects removed, ask to have them removed. Make a list and become willing to make amends, ask to do it. It is a classic, almost architectural pattern of living. Now, Dr. Bob summarized all 12 steps into these 6 words. Steps 1, 2, and 3, trust God. Steps 4 through 11, clean house. Step 12, help others. Isn't it significant that the major portion of the 12 steps has to do with correcting what's wrong in here? Immediately after sobriety, I can't handle it, God can, I think I'll get in touch. Now comes the cleanup act. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, there is not a therapy on earth as complete as AA is. It's almost popular in the so-called scientific world to deny what we call the spiritual life, the world of morality and everything else. We are no more than animals who determine our own destiny. There is such a thing as morality. Wherever you see this word, moral, it has to do with the rightness or wrongness of human behavior. And AA was the first purely scientific organization on earth to recognize that the moral side of the human animal has to be faced and handled if we are to achieve any kind of mental, spiritual, mental, emotional health. Please make this distinction or you'll just drag your heels in the mud. The disease is not immoral. That happens. The disease is a purely physical thing. It is a biochemical addiction to a drug. It results in added damage to the mind, emotions, and soul. And so we call it a threefold disease of body, mind, and soul. The behavior of the addict is always, to a greater or lesser degree, immoral. And that's why we're asked to take a moral inventory so we can correct those things. The disease is not immoral. That happens. What it makes us do is pretty bad. You've all heard family therapists go into what happens. Infidelity, incest, wife abuse, child abuse, husband abuse, emotional battering, spiritual damage, name it, it's all there. Who but the alcoholic gets drunk and takes his daughter to bed? Who but the alcoholic shows up drunk at her mother's funeral? Who but the alcoholic is drunk at the daughter's graduation? Who but the alcoholic alienates his kids to such a degree that they're afraid to bring their schoolmates home? You could go on forever. I was in a Midwestern state, and I gave that talk about family and all the horrible things that happen as a result of this disease in the lives of others. A woman came up to me afterwards. She said, "Father, you missed one." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" She said, "My husband was a good man from the beginning. He was a good man when he drank. But," she said, "never abused us physically, never abused us verbally, never abused us financially. We never wanted for a dime. However, he drank and slept. He just disappeared from this family and lived in a world of unconsciousness. He didn't pick up one responsibility toward this family at all. He drank and slept." The behavior of the addict is always immoral. You know what the alcoholic and the drug addict is now asked to do? It's not to wipe that out, that's there. It's to resolve the guilt of the past, because you cannot live with guilt sober. Dr. Bob proved this in the very beginnings of AA. He and Bill got together. They started this thing unconsciously. And he went on a medical seminar or something in Atlantic City, and he drank. And he realized that he could not stay sober until he cleaned up his past, because he said it's impossible to look at it through sober eyes and be able to stand it. And this is why, my friends, right after steps 1, 2, and 3, this comes right away. He did that. He took a moral inventory of his life. He admitted to God, himself,
And the moral inventory is really important, because so many times in the years that I used to drink, I never took accountability of how my drinking affected others. I didn't take accountability until I wanted to stop, that although at times in my life I didn't drink every day, there was always some type of consequence from the drinking. I would maybe fall asleep and forget to make appointments or school events, or just be accountable for something that I was signed up to do.
another human being, and he was able to go on. In a lot of treatment centers, you hear counselors say things like, you got to get rid of the garbage. And they have you write out all of your past sins, put them in a bag, and go and burn the bag. Does nothing. You will never get rid of your past. It's there. Mine is there. Yours is there. You cannot change one iota of it, and you don't get rid of it. What you do is resolve the guilt about it. A good friend of mine, a man from whom I learned most of what I know, said this. He said, after I got well and I did my 4th and 5th steps, he said, I could walk into practically any hotel in the land. He was a writer. He used to write for newspapers. And he said, under any potted palm could be an old doozer who could look me right in the eye and say, Ripley, you are an SOB. And he said, I'd look him right back in the eye and say, everything you say about me was true.
And I agree with that. Many times, people would see me at events or family gatherings, and they wouldn't know that I'm on this sobriety journey. And I've been blessed. I've been saved from this chaos of, drinking over and over and making my life unmanageable. And people would just say, hey, I know you got some alcohol in your purse or something. Like, no, that's how I used to be, but that's not me anymore. I don't have the desire to drink. And your past is there. I know that some people cannot believe that I'm sober, but I know my truth and it feels great. That's something that I used to do. And I'm proud. I don't have to drink anymore.
No more. Unresolved remorse will destroy you. And so we are asked to take an inventory. That's a very wise word. You know what we're asked to do? We're asked to try to find out what this is, this I that I've spoken about all my life.
I like how he breaks down this I that he's talking about. What he's going to break down is I. There's me, I, and I think he's going to say, if I can remember, um, there's 3 parts of us. That's I. It's I. It's who I truly am. It's who people perceive me to be. And then let's see what the third one is.
Every one of us in this room, my friends, is 3. I am who you think I am. 16,000 miles off center. I am who I think I am. A little bit closer. I've lived with me for a lot of years. The third me is the real me. And very often in the life of any individual, the real me escapes oneself for a lot of years until honesty sets in. Have you ever honestly believed that all your misery is caused by everybody else? The wife, the husband, the children, the circumstances, the neighborhood, the family, the...
Yeah, and now he's getting into it because a lot of times, some of us that had issues with drinking or we drink too much, we would say, oh, we drink because we deserve to drink. We've had a long day. Or, we would drink over death. We would drink over a lost job. We would drink over poor grades. We would drink over children's behaviors. And it was always someone else's fault why we drank, but we never would take accountability of why we truly drank.
Weather, anything. I'm not responsible for me or the goofy state I'm in. It's always somebody else's fault. There was a couple went to West Point once to watch their kid graduate. The entire Corps was marching by. The wife nudges the husband, says, isn't that wonderful, Henry? 4,000 cadets and our little Georgie is the only one in step. Well, I mean, when the whole world's out of step with me, maybe I am. You know what you're asked to do in treatment? Look into a mirror and keep staring till you see what's there. You pare away what everybody thinks about and you look at yourself honestly, starkly. That is why they use these two words, searching, fearless, right or wrong list of what I've done in my life. And you know what I'm going to discover? What every human being has to. The good, the bad, and the ugly. What I've got, what I haven't got, and what has to go. I've got talents and so do you. Don't hand me this phony humility. Oh, I'm a nothing. You know. See, this is a good. No, this is a goofiness of the alcoholic or the drug addict when he comes into treatment. His estimation of self is so low that it is not accurate. It's not accurate. Have you ever met the phony humility of people? These. Okay, you go to an AA meeting, some guy gives a brilliant talk, and you go up to him after and say, God, that was magnificent. You really helped me. And he says, oh, it was really off the cuff. I wasn't really prepared. Next time you hear that, just say, geez, you know, on second thought, it did stink. You want to find out if somebody's on it. You know what really kills me? You get one of these absolutely luscious, beautiful young starlets appears on the Johnny Carson show. Oh, I'm always been an ugly duckling. My left side's my bad one, you know. That's as phony as it can get. The next time you hear someone knocking himself, agree. Just agree. Did you ever go to a party, you want to sing songs, and there's a piano player there, and you say, hey, would you mind playing for us? Oh, I don't play very well. Just say, excuse me, I thought you did, and walk away. Seriously, you'll find out that there's a whole lot of phoniness in the world.
Welcome. Welcome, Russell. I love you too. I hope that this step 4 content serves you well, and I hope you're having a great day. I don't know where you are in the world, but if it's a Saturday, happy Saturday. If it's Sunday, I hope you're having a great Sunday.
Ladies and gentlemen, humility is not a denial of truth, it is stark truth. God grant me the serenity to accept every gift and talent that He has given me. The courage to accept it and want to use it as it ought to be used, and the wisdom to know how. I've got plenty of talents, and so do you. Did it ever occur to you that maybe you were handpicked for sobriety because there's something in you God wants to use?
Yes, I do. I feel like God allowed me to live because this is what I was supposed to do, share my story and encourage others to encourage them that they can have a life without alcohol and still have a full, fruitful, and happy life. Yes, I do think I was handpicked.
To deny what God has given you is to insult Him. It's almost to spit in His face and say, no, you didn't. There are a lot of things I don't have. Have you ever found no talent people that, a person that thinks he can sing and can't? There's a friend of mine, he said whenever he got drunk, he sang. He thought he was the world's gift to the operatic world. On one of his last drunks, somebody taped him and played it to him the next day, and he left for Tahiti. I've got a lot, and there's a lot that I don't have that other people do. I've got to find out what I've got because the good Lord's going to ask me to use it someday to help somebody else. And if we're honest enough, and humility is stark truth. If I recognize what I've got and I recognize what you've got and we pool our resources, maybe together we can help somebody else. But the real me, I am asked to find out what that real me is and who he is. What's a moral inventory? If you don't know how to take one, get one of the marvelous pamphlets they have out. Try the 10 Commandments. I think we all function according to those rules. Live and let live. Do unto others and then cut out. Do unto others and then as you would have them do unto you. Take these normal rules of human behavior. I think that there are pamphlets out that have an entire examination of self that is very thorough and very complete. Get one. Go through it. Be honest enough to acknowledge these things. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're like me, I've done some wonderful things in my life. I've done a lot of things I'm very proud of. I've done an awful lot of things I'm terribly ashamed of. And I have failed to do a whole lot of things. All I'm asked to do is to list them so that somewhere along the line I can find the real me. There was on Sunday afternoon, they used to have something about the National Football League, and it was like an hour to a half hour before the games. And one Sunday, they had the hobbies of some of the players. And one used to buy old farmhouses about 100 years old. And
Go Niners, go Niners. I know that they did not win, but I'm still a Niners fan.
restore them and live in them until the bug bit again. He'd buy another one and restore it, and they'd live in it. But you know the very first thing he did when he bought a house? He had to find out what it had, what it didn't have, and what had to go. And he found out what it had: a few good timbers, a good chimney.
This is a really good example, a good analogy that he is doing about the old farmhouse that this ex 49er would purchase and build up. And he's explaining how pretty much just like an inventory, what it had, what had to go, and what needed to stay. And that's really similar to what doing an inventory. It's like you got to do an inventory of yourself. What has to go, and what should stay, and what do you need to work on. So this is a really good analogy.
It didn't have, let's say, a solarium or a sun deck or whatever. And he found out all the rotten things that had to go. When he cleared that out, he could then begin to rebuild. And I think that a lot of you have come into treatment. There's a lot of damage there. There's a lot of good there. Let's find out what it is that we have to build on and do the building. But please remember, it takes great courage to do this step. And we get the strength to do anything from a power greater than ourselves.
Okay, and then he's going to go into step 5, which I do not think I want to just move on over to step 5, because step 4 is very important. You just can't rush through it. I'm going to play Scott L from AA, and he's going to discuss step 4. I'll be interacting with the commentating on this share, and also sharing a couple of steps you can do daily that are very simple. And it includes prayer as well. So let's get into that.
Ralph for doing all the work to make this thing happen. Andrew, I think I might have left out, but I am real honored, and what a privilege for me to have the chance to talk on step 4, which is a real passion for me. But I would like to open, like I try to open everything I do, with a quotation from Lois Wilson, who said in the moment of silence before the Serenity Prayer that she took a few moments and invited God to the meeting. And my great teacher told me that he had learned to treat God like a gentleman, and it's his experience that gentlemen did not go where they weren't invited, and they didn't stay where they weren't made welcome. So if you would, let's just take a moment and literally invite God to join us and bless us with open hearts. Amen. Thank you.
So before we listen to the speaker of AA, I'm going to read a couple of questions that you can ask yourself daily. This is about, let's see, 8 questions that you can ask yourself daily, and you can keep a journal. That I got this from the recovery meeting that I went to last night. It is a Christ base, but even if you're not a Christian, you can definitely ask yourself these questions. The first question reads, how am I feeling today? And it just has a few lines. It could be a one-liner. It could be, you don't have to go in depth, or you can. How am I feeling today? I want you to take time right now and ask yourself that. Next question, what did I do right today? And I'll give examples later. Next question, what did I do wrong today? Do I owe anyone an amends? Do I need to offer forgiveness to anyone? Next question, if so, how will I do it? Next question, what are my prayer requests? And the last question for the day, what is the next action I need to take for my recovery? So I'll give some examples. The first question of the 8, how am I feeling today? I feel strong and confident in my recovery, and I feel good. What did I do right today? Well, I didn't ruminate on things that kept me in a stuck place, that didn't let me move forward. And for my day, I kept it moving. What did I do wrong today? See, that's the one that I get stuck on. And I think many of us, what did I do wrong today? You know, this is what I feel like I did wrong today. I did not do a full workout, and I really wanted to, but I didn't do a full workout. I just did a 30-minute workout, and I could have did a whole hour workout, but that's the only thing I feel like I did wrong today, honestly. Do I owe anyone an amends? I'm going to say I do owe my mother an amends, because sometimes I feel like I'm impatient with her. And the other thing reads under that, do I owe anyone an amends? Do I need to offer forgiveness to anyone? And I would say yes, my mom, because I feel like I was a little impatient with her last week. If so, how will I do it? I'll take the time, give her a call, take her out to lunch, and ask for her to forgive me if I was rude or short with her. What are my prayer requests? I pray. My prayer request is that you all pray that I allow my higher power, my understanding, to continue to lead me and to guide me throughout my day, to give me the strength to succeed in the where I'm at in my career, and raising 3 young, beautiful men without a father in the home. I get the strength and the direction to make sure that I guide them in the right way, academically, spiritually, emotionally. And then the next one, the last one, what is the next action I need to take for my recovery? I need to be consistent, and I need to keep my boundaries. And that's the action I'm going to take. I'm also going to be going to the Christ Base recovery every Friday, because it serves me so well, going to an in-person meeting at least once a week. I still go to a lot of online meetings, but going to a in-person meeting, all women's meeting, served me so well, and it felt good to be surrounded by women in recovery that that were believers, that had the similar struggles that I have and talk about it. So I'm going to play Scott L., and he's going to talk about step 4.
Yeah. When I got to you, what I was trying to do was I was trying to work the promises and hope the steps came true. My history is to try to pretend to be what I think you want me to be. And then you guys were reading these 9-step promises, thought, okay, that's who I'm supposed to be here. So I tried to be that. And it was making me pretty crazy. And I eventually fell into the hands of a big book thumper who sponsored me. And he told me that I was too sick to stay sober on the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, that I would have to have the program also. And which, you know, I had zipped through a 28-day treatment program in 6 weeks flat. And just thought I knew a whole lot, and I didn't have any idea what he was talking about. And Jerry said at the end of his life, he thought the best kept secret in our fellowship, definition of the program. How do we keep it secret? Well, we read it at just almost every meeting. It's read here today on page 59. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. He said the steps aren't part of the program. They are the program. No steps, no program. That's simple. Just that simple. He said, don't drink and go to meetings. You'll die from that. That'll kill you. That the steps of the program, it's to dig the poison out of your soul. And so without diverging too far into my own story, I'm going to try to get focused on the first portion of step 4. And so the only way I know how to present this is how I take a new guy through the step. And the new guy is defined someone who has just asked me to sponsor him. It could be somebody that has more time than I do. I get to do that every once in a while. Doesn't matter how much time he's got. If he's just asked me to sponsor him, he's a new guy as far as I'm concerned.
And I like that point that he makes. It really doesn't matter how much time we have. We can always help each other. Someone that has 30 days could also help me. Someone who has 5.5 years. And it's we all have right now. If you're at home and you haven't taken a drink today, and you're thinking about that you might have a problem with alcohol, and you have maybe 5-10 minutes, we have the same amount of time we have right now.
I'm a one-trick pony. I'm going to take him through the steps, all I know how to do. So the scene is he has just done his 3rd step prayer. We're coming up off of our knees. And I say to him, you will probably hear, if you haven't yet, the discussion raging in our fellowship as to when to do a 4-step. And I've heard people say, don't do a 4-step too soon, you may drink. I never have seen that. I've seen several thousand wait too late. And you'll hear people say, do 1 step a year, but they can't tell me what page that's on. The book is not specific about when to do a 4-step. It actually makes 2 time references, and I give all the leeway that the book gives. So we'll use either of those 2 time references or anything that lies between them. Does that seem fair to you? That seems fair, right? So I say, begin reading for me at the bottom of page 63, and he reads next. I say, whoa, that's the time reference. So we've just come up off of our knees from doing the 3rd step prayer. It says, next, we launched a course of vigorous action. First step is a personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. Though our decision, that's the 3rd step decision, we decided. 3rd step is clearly not where we turn our will and lives over to God or over to the care of God. If it were, we'd have a 3-step program. And the directions for accomplishing the decision numbered 4 through 12. According to my sponsor, it said a decision was a vital meaning necessary to life, and crucial step. It could have little permanent effect unless at once. Wait, that's a time reference. So the 4th step is either done next, or at once, or anywhere in between. And I'm going to let you choose. I'll give you all of the leeway the book gives you. You'll find I'm very easy. Followed by a strenuous efforts to face and be rid of. Isn't that interesting? In step 4, we're going to be rid of. Matter of fact, we're going to be rid of twice on this page. They're going to tell us to be rid of. I make an observation. When you do step 4, if all you do is write, you will be rid of ink, paper, and time. And I'll be astounded to find out that any of those are blocking you. So there must be things other than writing involved in step 4. We're getting clues here. To be rid of the things in ourselves which have been blocking us, therefore we started upon a personal inventory, step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. Most of the businesses that I have dealt with in my business career, especially over the last 15 years, they do a computer update every night, which for me is the evening portion of step 11. But once a year, sometimes twice, but once a year, they do a full teardown inventory. That's the reference that I take from that. And in my 23 years, I think I've done 24 steps. The last one was on an airplane in about 40 minutes. If I do what I'm told on a regular daily basis, I don't wind up with a lot of poison in my soul. And when I go through the process again, I find it rather quickly and discard it rather quickly. My first few 4 steps did not take 40 minutes. Let's see. It's an effort to discover the truth about the stock and trade. One object to disclose damaged or unsaleable goods to get rid of. Twice they've told us, get rid of them promptly without regret. We did the same thing with our lives. We took stock honestly. First, we searched out the flaws in our makeup, which caused our failure. That's the good news. That's what my sponsor told me when we were actually a page before on page 62. He said, would you like to have some good news? I said, I would. He said, would you like to have the best news you're ever going to get in your whole life? I said, yes, I would. He said, it's right here on page 62. Get ready. Here it comes. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. Was that it, Jerry? Yeah, that was it. I don't get it. He said, the good news is that you're the problem, because if it really is the cops, the courts, the Russians, the Chinese, the PTA, and the ex-wife, you know, if it really is them, you're cooked, son. We can't do a thing about them. The good news is that you're the problem. And if you'll bring a little willingness to this party, we can work on that. And then he defined willingness for me. He said, willingness is when you do what your sponsor says, whether you want to or not. Man, it was very difficult to deal with. And saved my life. First, we searched out the flaws in our makeup, which caused our failure. Being convinced itself, manifested in various ways, was what had defeated us. We considered its common manifestations. Can I see the hands of the people in this room who've never done a 4-step? Come on, I know you're here. Fantastic. Fantastic. Welcome. Let me tell you something. Step 4 is one of the easiest steps we got. It's just maybe a little bit on the long side. But let's be honest about it. There are no surprises. You did all that. Okay, nothing to be afraid of here. You're the...
And I might have a part 1, 2, and 3 of the 4th step, because this is a step that I've been stuck on for about, about 2 years. I've been stuck on step 4. I've had 3 sponsors, and the first one, our time didn't really match up because, just our time didn't match up, and I didn't get to do the steps with her. But the second sponsor, I was able to do get to step 3, and I was supposed to start step 4, but I wasn't able to start it because of the pandemic, and you know how that thing went. So my most recent sponsor, she wanted to start all over, and I believe we're on step 2 right now. But I really, really want to tackle step 4, because this seems to be the step that most get stuck on, and so let's hear about it. But I'm doing a daily inventory, even though it's not a step 4, it's the daily inventory. So let's hear what he has to say about this 4th step.
The one that did this stuff. The second piece on that's so important, this is what he told me. He said, all that stuff in your past that you did that makes you sick to think about it. He said, that's not who you are. That's who you're not. Because if that's who you are, you're still out there doing it, and it doesn't make you sick to think about it. What we will teach you here is how to quit doing who you're not, how to repair the damage for doing who you're not, how to receive the forgiveness for doing who you're not, and who you really are will emerge from the ashes like the phoenix. That's what's going to happen here if you will just go through this process with us. That in step 4, we're going to begin to dig the poison out of your soul. And that is precisely what this thing is about. So, you know, I think he told me if I tried to do this without someone who'd already done it for a coach, that what I would wind up with was a searchless and fearing moral inventory. And I think that's right. And the directions are pretty specific on how to do it. And I'm going to cover a few. I count about 26, and I'm kind of a technician, and I don't apologize for that. It's working for me. So we start looking for directions on what do I do. It says at the bottom of 64, resentment is the number one offender. Number one offender. It destroys. I wonder if that's a problem. It destroys more alcoholics than.
Yeah, so what I've learned in this program that you cannot hold on to resentments. I used to hear people say in my early recovery, I can't afford to stay mad at anyone. I can't afford to hold on to resentments because it will lead me to the bottle. And so I'm gonna have this fourth step be a part 1 and possibly 2 and 3. So we're gonna hear what he has to say about resentments. One slogan that I heard someone say is resentments is like walking with a pebble in your shoe. And you keep feeling that pebble and it's making you angry and you're feeling it and you're feeling it. And it's like you're so angry and it's still in your shoe and you're just like, why don't you just get it out, get rid of it? But I know that seems too simple, but let's see what he has to say.
Anything else, and I have watched that recently, close to me. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease. We've been not only mentally and physically ill, we've been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. Makes me think the spiritual one is the one that matters. Then it says, in dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. Aha! That, to me, is a general description. They're going to tell me exactly how to set it on paper. It said we listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we are angry. He said a list is a series of words and phrases that run down a page. I don't believe I've ever seen a list that ran across a page. List, think about your last grocery list. They run down pages, they don't run across. Calls for a list. And what we need now is a list. And then he said, you're probably wondering what color ink and what color paper you should use. Were you wondering that? I think I said no, but I might have said yes. I don't know, about half of them will say yes. He said, the book's not specific about that. Over here on 67, it says we placed them before us in black and white. That's not very specific. It doesn't say black ink and white paper. It could easily be black ink or black paper and white ink. Easily. I've sponsored 2 so far who went to the art store and got black paper and pens that wrote white ink. And one of them's over 18 years now. And I required that. I want that attitude because I don't care what the book says. We're going to do it. I don't care how small the detail is. We're going to follow it. And I require them, if I sponsor them, to work on white paper with black ink or black paper with white ink. We go either way. Or pencil. Dark pencil will do as well. And I think that's ridiculous. And I require it. And I think the easy way is to get a spiral notebook at the drugstore for about $1.49, like so. And on the inside cover, you want to write something subtle, like, this is my 4-step, put it down. If I find you with it, I will kill you and hide your body. Something subtle and yet to carry the spiritual message that you're trying to convey. I think that's a good choice. And then we need a list. And now I want to talk about, I don't want you to take on completing a 4-step. It's not your assignment. When I sat to do my first one, I gave myself the assignment of completing a 4-step, and it made me in perfect position to hate me till it was done. Wrong assignment. The assignment I want is for you and I to agree on how much time, based on what we both know about your life, how much time you should commit to your 4-step each week. And it may vary week to week, but we need to agree on that. And then you need to make appointments with me as to when you're going to do it. I'm not going to be there, but then you make appointments with me, and it's like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for a half hour. That's not an appointment. Monday from 5 p.m. until 5:30 p.m. is an appointment. And I want you to call me every Sunday with them. So let's set this up and keep it in motion. And then all of a sudden, you know, the wife and kids are going to be out of town and you got a Saturday all by yourself and you want to kill yourself with it. Great. Have a good time. But I don't believe that recovery from alcoholism should have a negative impact on any other aspect of my life. It should be real inconvenient at times, but it should not hurt me at my job. It should not hurt me with my family. It should not hurt me with my church. And, so let's agree on it, because, I mean, here's the situation. Let's say you got a 40-hour-a-week job and a 30-minute commute. That's 45 hours gone. If you sleep 8 hours a night, that's 56 more. 15 hours for a week for meetings. That's a meeting a day with some drive time. 3 hours for recreation, maybe some tennis, around the golf. 2 hours mowing the lawn and doing your melon list. You know, honey, do this. You know the melon list. And 5 hours reading spiritual literature. I require the guys I sponsor to read 2 pages a day in the basic text. We just start at the beginning and just read 2 pages a day to 164 and just keep it coming. That's the only way you can find the new stuff. And yeah, the people who read the book often are laughing now because I swear you read it with new spiritual eyes, you find stuff that wasn't there before. 3 hours a week to bathe, shave, take care of yourself. 4 hours for a date with your wife if you're fortunate enough to still have one. Or maybe coach a little league team. 5 hours on the phone with me and some men whose names and numbers I will give you. 12 hours a week to cook and eat food. 1 hour to shop for groceries and clothes, get a haircut. 5 hours a week in prayer and meditation. 9 hours a week watching TV. That's 3 ball games. That's enough. That's 165 hours. A week has 168 hours in it. You got 3 hours left. I want half. So that's sort of the rule of thumb that I work with. And I think a 30-minute period is a pretty good way to go. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 5 to 5:30. And you say, oh, my goodness, I didn't know my son had the Little League game, and you have to slip it till 9 o'clock that night. I don't even need a phone call. But like anything else that's on your calendar that's important, it's not subject to cancellation. Might be moved occasionally. Or your boss comes into town, you're going to be with him all week long, and you're not going to. Great on the front end. My experience as a sponsor is that I get reasons on the front end, I get excuses on the back end. Catch me on the front. I do better with it. You're not going to do the perfect 4-step. You have my permission not to do the perfect 4. If you have to do the perfect 4-step, you can't do one at all. And besides, this isn't your 4-step. This is your next 4-step, or your first 4-step. We're going to be doing, if I sponsor you, you'll be taking a newcomer through this work and doing it yourself again within a year. So you don't have to get it all. You have to try to, but you don't have to get it all. And I'll show you how I try to keep somebody moving through that thing. And I tell them, we are not saving a special alcove in Akron at the AA Hall of Fame for your 4-step. In addition to which, our home group does not give a trophy every year for the very best 4-step. And this is the trophy you are not going to get. For those who can't read, it says 4-step trophy never awarded. You can have your picture made with us later for a very small fee. I show them the trophy. Some get it, some don't. But the point is, if you have to do it perfectly, you can't do it at all. So let's get out there and do a lousy first 4-step. Fantastic. Boy, isn't that better than not doing one at all? You bet it is. Yeah. Permission to make a mistake. Permission to be human. So powerful. So now we've established that you've got your white paper and black ink or whatever alternative you came up with. And you're sitting down to do your first session. And we found the first direction was we listed, that's a list is a series of words and phrases run down a page. We listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry. So I need now a list of everybody you've ever been angry with if this is your first 4-step. And what I have you do is consider the 2 pages. The inside cover has got the little subtle spiritual thing about put this down. And by the way, after he gets started on.
Yeah, so that could be a very long list, and you have to be really honest with yourself. Maybe it's a short list, but the way that I started to do my resentments, I would start with family. I would start with friends. then, possibly in a place of employment. And you could break it down that way.
On it as soon as possible. I give him his grade. It's a red F minus. It's one more, you ain't going to do it perfect thing. I always give him an F minus. As soon as he gets started writing, I grade it for him. And they all get that. That's the way it's. Like
I said, I'm going to break this step 4 into 2, maybe 3 um, videos. I'm going to try to keep my videos, except for possibly the Sunday videos when I'm yeah, it might be a little bit longer than an hour, but I like to I'm gonna keep my videos of recovery in a timely manner. Usually meetings are about an hour, and so we're closing in on that hour, and I think that is a good time to end it and move on to the next thing. So just to real quick, I want to go over the daily inventory. Again, this is step 4, but these questions that I'm going to remind you to ask yourself on a daily basis, it's from this daily inventory notebook that I got from a recovery meeting yesterday. And the first question before you go to bed tonight, or when you have time to do an inventory at the end of your day, ask yourself how you're feeling today. And maybe you might need to do it in the middle of the day. If you feel like you're, feeling a little off and you just really need to check in with yourself. How am I feeling today? What did I do right today? What did I do wrong today? Do I owe anyone an amends? Do I need to offer forgiveness to anyone? And if so, how will I do it? What are my prayer requests? What is the next action I need to take for my recovery? There's some people out there that are drinking so much that they don't feel like they can stop. And I've helped people like that. I've helped people that have been so far into the bottle that I've suggested that they need to detox safely. Sometimes it's not safe to detox on your own. Some of us will die if we try to detox on our own. So I don't encourage you to do that. If you're at the point to where you have the shakes that you're, pretty much convulsing, or you feel like you can't go you can't go more than a couple of hours without a drink, it's a big possibility that you should get some medical care and have them medically detox you, because you can die from this disease if you detox by yourself. So I just want you to know that if you're out there and you're one of those people that are struggling, that there is hope, and have faith. And if you're painstaking about this phase of your development, you'll be amazed before you're halfway through. You're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. You will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. You'll comprehend the word serenity, and you will know peace. No matter how far down the scale you've gone, you'll see how your experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. You'll lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in your fellow. Self-seeking will slip away. Your whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave you. You will intuitively handle situations which used to baffle you. You'll suddenly realize that God is doing for you what you cannot do for yourself. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They'll always materialize if we work for them. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I pray that this video serves you well. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. I pray that if you are struggling with addiction or alcoholism or all of the above, mental health, that God frees you and gives you serenity and peace tonight and forever. And have a lovely weekend. I love you. God loves you.